Hi, everybody. I just wanted to send a Pesach message, and I've just been thinking, and I wanted to share my thoughts. So when I look back from last Pesach to this one, all I can say is that so much has changed. So the world is just not the same place. It's not the same place politically or financially, spiritually or morally, or even our health. Everything seems so different, and it really has unfortunately really declined. So I'm not going to come and start listing all the service and everything that's happened. Just suffice it to say that we need Hashem now. So what I find so phenomenal, like this is what I was thinking about today, is as the world is turning over and turning upside down, we're busy turning our kitchens and houses upside down while we try to get rid of all of the chametz. And it's interesting, like it just makes me feel like this whole holiday of Pesach is such a testimony in the faith that we have in Hashem, the freedom that we earn with that faith. And no matter how things are turning, no matter if the world is spinning this way, we keep turning to Hashem and we focus on what the hour tells us is the next right thing. So right now, what is it? So right now, like, it's so interesting. What's our focus? It's cleaning and schlepping and praying and learning and inviting and preparing and shopping for these biggest holiday really of the year. And it's interesting. I was like going to Sophie's today and there was like no room in the parking lot. And there were no carts available. And then when I got into the store, there was hardly any space for anybody to move anywhere. And you know what? I was filled with joy. I was just so incredibly happy. I kept smiling at everybody and everything. Do you know why? Because I couldn't get over like how every single person is so busy and so involved. And every one of us in all of these little actions, and they're not little when you pile them up, all the schlepping and the cooking and the shopping, when you just take it for what it really is. It's the mitzvahs, it's connecting, it's remembering who we are and where we come from. It's our belief in the Jewish people and the Jewish nation. It's our belief in Hashem. And that for thousands of years, we still do this. And we still believe and we still have hope and we still understand that there is something very special about who we are as a people and our mission on earth. And so with every schlep and with every cleaning, with every scrubbing, you are creating positive spiritual malachim. You're creating angels, positive spiritual energy, right? That's just changing and refreshing this world. So it's just amuna and bitachon. It's faith and trust in the air. That's what I feel. And so, you know what, as I looked back and I was thinking about who represented that a lot to me, it was Mrs. Hoffman. So I want to really dedicate this little speech, or whatever you want to call it, my little thoughts, in memory of Mrs. Leah Hoffman, Leah Bas Asher Zelig Halevi. She was an incredible Eishes Chayil. She was a Holocaust survivor who embodied Emunah and Bitachon. And because of that, I really want to review what she taught us. And that was, she taught us this concept of taking a piece of the afikomen and saving it, right? And saving it for the year, because she said it was a segula. What's a segula? It's a divine charm. And how did the story go? So if you remember, when the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, walked into Poland, right? They were taking over Poland, and her father realized like they were in dire straits, and he wanted to know what could he do to save his family. So he ran to his rabbi. His rabbi was his mentor, and it was interesting. The rabbi, he referred to him. We never could find the name of who he was, but Mrs. Hoffman's father referred to him as the rabbi with the open eyes. So he went to him and he said, please, can you give me advice what to do to save my family? So the rabbi said, wait here. And he took 3 pieces from his afikomen that he must have probably had, and he gave him 3 pieces from the afikomen. And he specifically told him, I want you to give it to your 2 sons and to your daughter. And he named them. And what was so interesting was that the family was bigger than that. There were 5 kids, I believe, in the family, and one was married. There was an extended reality here, but he specified these three. He said, give them these pieces of the afikomen and tell them to sew it into their clothing. And so the story went that even though Mrs. Hoffman and her two brothers were completely separated during the war, they were the three sole survivors of the family. And when they finally found each other again after the war, they reunited, and so did the three pieces of the matzah that carried them through the war and was that skula to help them survive. So it's really an incredible story. And I remember when Mrs. Hoffman told that story, I was like so curious because I had never heard of this idea. And then I started looking it up. And so I just wanted to review some of the ideas that I found. And I want us to like concentrate on them this year. So the first thing was I had spoken to Rabbi Segula, and he said that the afikomen, right, was a divine charm, like I said, and protection for livelihood and for children, and, you know, for all of the trials and tribulations that you could come up, that could happen to you. So he said, which is very interesting, according to the Maor V'Shemesh, he tells you that the real essential matzah that you eat, the most important piece of matzah that you eat at the Seder is the afikomen, because it represents the Korban Pesach. It represents that sacrificial lamb that the Jewish people had emunah. They had incredible belief and strength that they took this lamb, which represented the God of Egypt. Could you imagine? And literally slaughtered it in front of the Egyptians, right? And they put the blood on the doorposts, and in that merit, right, the Almighty passes over the doors of the Jewish people. No one dies, no firstborn gets killed, and you know that night they're taken out, and you know freedom comes. So it's really an incredible reality. So the afikomen, right, is representing that Korban Pesach. We don't have the Korban Pesach today, so the afikomen represents it. So he's saying this afikomen is like the most important piece of matzah of the night. And what would people do with the pieces of afikomen that they saved? So like Mrs. Hoffman, she kept a piece in her purse, and other people would actually keep a piece like framed on the wall, or I have my little afikomen, I keep it in a bag, I keep it up on the wall. Also, I have like a hook and it's on the wall. And so every time you're looking at that piece of afikomen, what is it supposed to remind you? You have to remember that this represents the Korban Pesach, which really represents the redemption of the Jewish people from Egypt. It represents the night that we had faith in God and God had faith in us. And he took us out of Egypt. We become the nation, his nation. We bear the responsibility to be the light unto the nations. We get the Torah, we get our purpose, we get our mission. So it's all in this little afikomen to remember all of those incredible realities. So it's funny, I was talking to Mrs. Hoffman last year, and I had done what she said. I was so excited about it, and I decided I'll be like Mrs. Hoffman. She has a piece in her purse, so I put my afikomen in my purse. Anyway, I meet her, I say, you know, Mrs. Hoffman, I have to thank you. I took the afikomen like you told me. I put it into my purse. Unfortunately, now my afikomen is matzah meal. Okay, so now it's only good to bread schnitzel with. Like, what should I do? So she's so generously, she said to me, you know, don't you worry, I'm going to give Sheila, you know, her daughter, a piece of her afikomen, and I'm going to share it with you. So this is one of the pieces of her afikomen, and I hope in Mirz Hashem, I hold on to it until Mashiach comes and I can return it. So it'll be so amazing. Anyway, so number one, we are remembering this concept of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Hashem took us out of Egypt. This is one of the 6 constant things that we should remember every day. So it really is something in Jewish consciousness that's very important. It's that night of freedom where we chose Hashem, Hashem chose us, and you know, now comes our mission and our destiny in history. So it's incredible. Matzah is also called the bread of Emunah. which makes sense, right? So it's a bread of the emunah. Why? Because that night the Jewish people were asked to leave, and all they had on their back was the matzah. So they couldn't bring like tons of water. They didn't bring tons of provisions. They were, chased out, like get out of Egypt quick. So you can imagine what that means in terms of emunah. Like if you look at us, like if any of us have to go with your grandchildren or your children to the park, you're probably taking an entire knapsack. Some people take a suitcase, right, full of snacks and sandwiches and drinks. So this was real emunah, us just taking those matzahs and out we go. Now, this is a beautiful idea. I love it. Okay, matzah is an acronym, the mem, the tzadi, and the hey, and it stands for this. And it's a beautiful acronym. Michol tzura hitzilanu. From every kind of trouble, right, or narrow strait. Tsuris, constraint, narrow strait, you save us. So it's very interesting. There are people who will not travel without this little piece of matzah. They say that after the afikomen, and they take it with them wherever they go, especially if they could go on a trip. There's actually a very famous story with Sir Moses Montefiore that he was on a sea voyage, and the water changed, weather changed, the ship is like in dire straits, and he had a piece of his afikomen with him, and he threw it overboard into the water, and it calmed down. They said for years after that, he celebrated the anniversary of that salvation every year. So it's really, something to think about. Another idea about afikomen, which I think is very important, is the value of the word for afikomen. The value gematria is 287, which is the same gematria for the word rofe, which means healer. So if I had to look at the world today, oh boy, we need a lot of healing, right? So we need healing physically, we need healing spiritually, we need healing morally, we need healing mentally, we need healing emotionally, okay? Now, another part to the afikomen, if you look at the first three letters of the word afikomen, they're aleph, afikomen, yes, aleph, pei, yud. Okay, and those stand for poseach es yadecha, right? Open your hands. So this is something we say in Ashrei, we say it in Tehillim, we say it in benching. It's a really beautiful three little words. Open up your hand and feed the world. That's what we say. It's Hashem who feeds every single living thing, including my little fishies in my tank. It's really unbelievable when you think about it, right? So here's our emunah, right? In a world that's financially very troubled. Things that we took for granted, food on the shelves and gas prices that were reasonable, so much that we took for granted is just changing. So, we're going to look at this matzah, we're going to look at this afikomen, and we're going to say, poseach es yadecha umaspia l'chal chayratzon. What's also very interesting about the afikomen, if you take a look at it, it's not only the most important piece of matzah of the night, right? That represents the Pesach, Korban Pesach, but what is also so important about it, it's the last thing you eat at the Seder night. So it's not only the last piece of matzah you eat, it's the last thing you eat, period, at the Seder. Okay, it's your dessert. And Hashem is kind of telling you, like, take this delicious dessert and what it represents and let it keep you full for the rest of the year. So let's think about that. So how? So this is how. There's all kinds of questions every one of us has. We all have good friends or even ourselves who are not well, right? And we're going to ask ourselves, like, why? Like, why, Hashem? Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with the health of the world? Is there going to be another COVID, outbreak? What is going on? And please, Hashem, this young person is sick, Miriam Devora, and Liat Gittel Bas Chana, like so many people that we love, right? And many, unfortunately, many more. And we're going to say, like, Hashem, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And you know what we're going to say? Wait a minute. I saved my afikomen. It was my dessert. I'm supposed to take it with me through the year. It gives me emunah. So I look at the afikomen and I say, oh yeah, gematria 287. That stands for rofe. I don't have to worry. Hashem is the healer of the world. And what are we going to say when we're looking at inflation and the gas prices? oh my gosh, like, how are we going to make it? We're going to look at the afikomen and we're going to say, afikomen, that the first three letters, move them around. Poseach es yadecha umaspia l'chol chayroson. It's Hashem who runs the economy of the world, right? It's Hashem who makes these realities happen. It's not me. So I can put my faith and my trust in him. And what about like when we're just stuck and we feel so constrained, just can't get our act together, or we have problems with our children or problems with our spouse, or things just aren't going the way we want them to go, and we're like, there is just so much trouble, what's going to happen? Then we're going to look at the matzah and we're going to remember the afikomen, the most important matzah of the night, right? The one that represents the Korban Pesach. It's all the Amunah. That's that matzah. And what's it going to tell us? Mikol Tzura Hatzilenu. From every trouble you save us. And then sometimes we're going to go like, oh, I just can't. You know, they keep telling me Mashiach is coming, but I don't see it. Will I ever see it? Like, what's going to happen? Please. And then we look up and we remember. Yitzias Mitzrayim. Remember the fact that God took us out of Egypt. And like the Torah tells us, the Torah says it, like you were redeemed from Egypt, so you will be redeemed in the future. Let's do what Mrs. Hoffman did, of blessed memory. In her 100 years on this earth, she grew to understand with all her heart, with all her mind, with all her being, Ein Od Milvado. There is no one else but Hashem. He is the final decision maker. He is where the buck stops. We can try. We can do our hishtadlus to make this world a better place. But one of the greatest mitzvahs that you can do is the mitzvah of Amunah. So you put your little coins of hishtadlus in your hishtadlus box. We're going to try. We try. And that's part of who we are and what we have to do. But then we have to add the punch. I'm doing this, Hashem, because it's a real world. You told me this is my mitzvah. To be reasonable, do a little bit. But bottom line, it's all you. May Hashem look down at all the Jewish people all over the world who are schlepping and cooking and preparing and turning everything upside down. And then Mida Keneged Mida, he can turn everything right side up, right? And bring this Geula Shalema now. Thank you so much. I wish you all a Chakosher v'Sameach. I want to thank all the people who ever come to my classes. And I just want you to know how much you mean to me. And may Hashem bless us all with everything that we need. Open your hands at the night of the Seder. They say at the night of the Seder, bracha comes down for free. It's Hashem's gift to us. So like open it up. Pick up the blessings. All the best.